Of course, mentioning the three little letters MMA and regular members of the public may wince due to the sometimes graphic nature of the sport, but purists of the game will argue that the skill, courage, and bravery involved in getting into the octagon is something to behold. And whilst we don't always see knockouts, when we do, they can be spectacular. Today, we are discussing the craziest knockouts in MMA. Stay with us. First up is possibly the wildest of all time. Little known Joaquin Buckley took to the octagon on the Morales vs. Sandhagen undercard back in October 2020 and left the octagon with the whole world of MMA knowing who he was. Taking on Impa Kasanganay, the 14-4 fighter delivered a left high kick at Kasanganay, which he perfectly telegraphed, catching Buckley's foot. The St. Louis, Missouri fighter wasted no time and within a split second had launched a picture-perfect Taekwondo-style spinning back kick, using the leverage Kasanganay was providing him by holding his left foot up to land a perfectly placed right heel directly in the face of his opponent. It really was the perfect knockout. Add to that the fact that the fight took place whilst COVID-19 restrictions were in place, meaning there were no fans in the arena. The sound of Buckley's heel cannoning into Kasanganay's face reverberated around the venue, and the Sanford MMA fighter was left face down in the canvas. This one is probably, technique-wise, the best knockout we've ever seen, and unfortunately for Kasanganay, his fate as the star of highlight reels all over the world was sealed in a split second. Do you guys remember this one? Let us know below. Next up is one of the biggest shocks of all time. Georges St-Pierre, who was defending his UFC welterweight world title for the first time against Matt Serra back at UFC 69 in April 2007, went into the fight as the overwhelming favorite. Serra hadn't set the world alight with his record in the UFC, but he found himself with a title shot following his win over Chris Little. GSP was much the bigger man, and Serra, known more for his jiu-jitsu experience, wasn't really expected to cause the Canadian many problems, but he tore up the script, quite literally. In the first round, he landed a massive overhand right, followed by a left hook, which wobbled the champ, and Serra smelled blood. He chased GSP down, sending him to the mat, mounting him and finishing him with some pretty solid ground and pound. Serra's win sent shockwaves around the world, but his stint as champion didn't last long as the UFC ordered an instant rematch. Of course, GSP wasn't going to make the same mistake again, and he won back his title in the second thanks to a TKO. Who was your favorite fighter in the early years? We're staying with Serra now. Stay tuned. Matt Serra took on Shoney Carter at UFC 31, having both appeared on the fourth installment of The Ultimate Fighter, and whilst Serra went into the fight as a slight favorite, he, like Kasanganay, cemented his appearance on UFC highlight reels for years to come. In the third round of their fight, Carter attempted a left kick to the body or head of Serra, which just missed, but the Chicago native used his momentum to land a perfectly placed spinning back fist into the chin of Serra, sending the Long Islander to the mat. The fight was soon called off thanks to Serra on the mat seeing stars, and Carter took the honor of being the first ever fighter to finish a fight via spinning back fist. Next up, it's our old mate Conor. Of course, Conor McGregor is one of the biggest names in the sport, and for good reason. Back in 2015, when the Irishman was starching all comers, he got his long-awaited title fight against many people's featherweight GOAT, Jose Aldo. The media circus surrounding the fight was intense, and saw the pair head off on an insane tour to promote the fight, which Conor intelligently used to get in the head of Aldo. He continually goaded him and even stole his belt off of him at one point, and the tactic worked. The usually calm Aldo lost his cool as soon as the bell rang and launched at McGregor to try and take his head off, but this was exactly what the Irishman wanted. Dodging Aldo's attack, he launched a perfect left to the chin of the Brazilian, sending him straight to the mat, where Conor landed another hammer fist just to be sure. The knockout is viewed as one of the craziest ever thanks to the furor surrounding the fight. Oh, and the fact that it only took the notorious 13 seconds to relieve Aldo of his belt. What was your favorite McGregor performance from this time? We're talking about Edson Barboza now. Stay with us. Back at UFC 142 in 2012, world-class Muay Thai fighter Edson Barboza delivered a knockout for the ages in his hometown of Rio de Janeiro. On the receiving end of his perfectly placed spinning wheel kick was Liverpool fighter Terry Edom. In the third round, round, Barboza landed a right-left combo to the body of Edom, quickly followed up by a right to the thigh. It was designed to open Edom up and bring him out to fight, which Barboza preyed on expertly. As Edom walked toward him to engage, Barboza, who had backed up a little, appeared to be weighing up his next shot, but he had already landed it in his head. He launched into action with an insane wheel kick, which landed flush to the head of Edom, sending the English fighter directly to the canvas. Barboza didn't even follow up the strike, as he knew it was over, and walked off nonchalantly to his corner. Unfortunately for Edom, he was never the same fighter and only fought one more time in the UFC before retiring from the sport not long after at the tender age of 27. Edom struggled in later life and was even hospitalized back in 2017 after running in and out of traffic in his native Liverpool, throwing himself against the windscreens of vehicles. A sad story. Next up, it's an all-time favorite, Cowboy Cerrone. Stay tuned. As you're probably aware, Donald Cerrone is one of the most popular fighters of all time, living by the mantra of anyone, anywhere, anytime. And it was against another stalwart of the game, Matt Brown, where he delivered one of the most iconic head kick KOs of all time. In the third round of their bout at UFC 206 in 2016, Cerrone threw a left jab, which Brown ducked out of the way of. But the quick-thinking Cowboy, who had set Brown up for the head kick, delivered a perfectly placed knockout blow, sending Brown crashing to the mat. At 39 and 41, Cerrone and Brown are still active, and with both struggling for form, could they meet again sooner than later? Brown would probably want revenge, so there's no reason why not. Who would you guys have if this one was booked again? Let us know below. An iconic Ngannou KO now. Stick around. Francis Ngannou's 2017 KO win over Alistair Overeem is iconic for the sheer force on display. The pair went to battle at UFC 218, and after the fight, no one on the planet was left questioning Ngannou's potential. The Cameroonian fighter delivered probably the scariest KO we've ever seen, and Overeem, who is still active today, was lucky to walk away from the fight relatively unscathed. In the very first round of the event in Detroit, Michigan, the pair were feeling each other out when an off-balance Overeem sent an overhanded left in Ngannou's direction, but there was little power in the shot. What had happened, however, was Overeem had left himself wide open, and Francis let off a left uppercut with such power that we felt it from where we were. Seen as one of the most iconic knockouts ever, the shot announced Ngannou onto the world stage and sent fear through the UFC's heavyweight division, as well as sending Overeem directly to sleep. What did you make of this one? Let us know below. And finally, a huge shock from the women's bantamweight division. The UFC 193 bout in 2015 between Holly Holm and champion Ronda Rousey featured two unbeaten fighters, but one world champion who is expected to wipe the floor with the preacher's daughter, Holm. But from time to time, these things don't turn out as expected. From the first bell, Rousey's game plan was all wrong, as she decided to chase down a world-class boxer, which was never going to end well. In the second, as the pair were jostling for position, Holm landed a short left to the chin of Rousey, which wobbled the champ, and this was the green light Holm needed to go for it. As Rousey struggled to stay upright, she landed a huge left head kick to the neck and jaw area, which signaled good night for Rousey. Holm made sure by jumping on top of the champ and landing a couple more blows before Herb Dean called it, and a new champion was announced. What did you make of this upset? As always, thanks for dropping in today. Don't forget to join us next time for lots more great content. Also, why not share our video with any UFC fans you know of? Bye guys!